Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Practice Pulse podcast. I am your host, Dr. Aditi Agarwal, and today I have the greatest pleasure of having with me my dear friend, talking to Allison Lacoursiere. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you so much for having me, DT. It's great to be here.
Yes, we are. We were just talking a few minutes ago how great it is that we've connected, like literally twice in this, in a 4 week period, which for me, I'm so grateful for because, guys, Allison is a powerhouse. She is a certified professional coach. She's founder of Clear Coaching, expert in leadership, communication, mindset strategies, and she uses a humans first methodology, which we're going to talk about, to enhance organizational health, performance, and efficiency. She has a decade of experience in the dental field. Allison has served as an RDA, that's a dental assistant, registered dental assistant for those who don't know, an orthodontic assistant, a certified dental office manager, and a faculty member for Align Technology. I mean, she is part of the Dental Speakers Institute and part of Upgrade Dental, and of course, a part of Align Technology. She is also a board member at SAIT, a lifetime member of ADOM, and founder of Women in Digital Dentistry. Ooh, I don't think we can stop the number of things you've done, Allison. Tell me a
Oh,
little bit about your journey. How have you moved along all these various roles and done it with such ease and professionalism? What drives
yeah. Oh my gosh. So I had like a mantra when I remember the first time I had this mantra. I was probably 10 or 12 years old. And I've always been a visionary. Like, I don't know where that came from, but I've always been a visionary. I always had like big dreams of traveling the world, of making big impact. And my mantra was do your best and do everything you can. And I'm pretty sure it came from like a Jimmy Eat World song or something, but it was just what I really believed in was just like do your best and do everything you can. And that has led me on such a journey of moving from Calgary, Alberta, when I was 19 years old as a dental assistant to the island of Bermuda, where I was in a practice that just really had a lot of opportunity for change. And I think somebody who with a less optimistic mindset may have saw the practice as, a lot of problems, but what I saw was just opportunity to grow and to set goals. And so that mindset led me on a journey of learning so much. I became the treatment coordinator. We did a ton of Invisalign in the practice. And then my boss invested in me so that I could continue to grow. I went back to the University of Toronto and I became an office manager there. And then realized that the hardest part of managing and running a practice was aligning your people. And so I went back and became a certified professional coach to learn how to really support the team in the practice. And all the while I was doing that, I was getting certified as a personal trainer, a nutritionist, a nutrition certification. I was playing on the national volleyball team, traveling all over to compete nationally in volleyball. And so I've always been the type of person to like set goals, create a vision, and do everything I can and do my best at it.
Wow, that's awesome. It's like I love that mantra. Do your best, and the rest will follow, right? And you really have lived it. And that is really, to me, an amazing thing that you always dreamed big, lived big, and then worked hard to achieve your dreams. And it's definitely, I mean, you're definitely one of those people, I must say, that is on the path not only to achieving your dreams, but to making other people's dreams come true. So, really, a true trailblazer. That is really fantastic, and I'm sure it was your doctor for whom you were working in Bermuda. They probably saw that in you, and that's what they were encouraging. And they said, hey, you know what? You have a mindset that is different from most others, and let's nurture that mindset. So that's truly, truly amazing. I think you are blessed in many, many ways.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, how did you get into the clear aligner world? I know that you were doing a lot of aligners, as you said, at that office in Bermuda, but then how did you kind of make an amalgamation of your coaching with with the clear aligner therapy to create what you have now?
Yeah, so my very first job out of dental assisting school was in an ortho practice. And it was just honestly, it was like one of those situations in life where you just kind of get lucky. And my practicum office referred me to an orthodontist. And he told me straight out, he's like, I don't want to hire you because I want an ortho specific trained assistant, but my friend highly referred you, highly recommended you as a student. So let's get you certified as an ortho assistant. And in a year, I fell in love with the process of orthodontics. Like, I loved the transformation. I loved seeing patients come in young and insecure, or I mean, older, and just making a decision. And the process that you get to see a patient go through with ortho is just, it's so powerful to me. And so I fell in love with that process. And then I got my job in Bermuda, which I was so excited about. It was my dream to like travel, work abroad for a couple of years, and then go back to university when I kind of knew what I wanted to do. But when I got there, I realized that a lot of the patients in the practice had lower anterior crowding. They needed ortho. And I asked my doctor, are we like, do we talk about this? Like, do you want to talk about this more? He's like, if they ask, we'll give it to them. But other than that, like, we don't want to be pushy. And I was like, that doesn't like feel right to me. So I was that assistant who, as I'm like flossing between the lower anteriors, I'm like at like with placing a rubber dam, I'm like, do you have a trouble flossing under your lower anteriors? They're like, mm-hmm. I'm like, we should really talk about fixing this. They're like, you can. I'm like, yes. And so I'm doing all these ortho consults for my doctor without being prompted to, just because I believed so much in ortho. And he's like, okay, like, let's do more ortho. So he started taking me to all of these courses. I remember like going to the Greater New York with him, and there was no assisting courses at the time. There was no like dental assistant aligner courses. So I would go into the ortho courses, and he would register me as an international doctor so I could sit in all of the ortho courses. And I did this for years. So I was online, like digesting so much aligner information, really understood tooth movements, was able to help map out the ClinCheck to the point where he would go and then accept it. Like, I just knew so much about orthodontics because I was really passionate about it. And in that process, I started developing systems in the practice. I'm like, okay, if we do this every single time, if we say this every single time, if we connect with the patient every single time, we're going to do more. And so my doctor loved it because I was like bonding the attachments, doing all the work. He was like, okay, so you're really good at systemizing things and communicating with patients. If you could do that, you could run the whole practice. So when I was 24, he like made me the office manager. And of course, we know the story. I had no idea what I was doing, but I figured it out. But that really was my journey into clear aligners. I got to see one, how much it transformed a GP practice because we started doing combination restoration cases. We'd set them up for implants. I started seeing a really unified team because the aligner process touched every single person in the practice, and it was a celebration. And we set goals around it as a practice. We got to see higher levels of production without increasing doctor time. I was like, this is an incredible procedure. Why aren't more practices doing this? And we started working with a consultant in the US, the Productive Dentist Academy, my very first coach. And she's like, how are you doing all of this aligner stuff? And your doctor really isn't spending any time on it. I was like, oh, here's all my systems. She's like, you need to teach other people this. And so it got this idea in my mind when I realized, after 10 years being in the practice, my mission was I will stay here as long as I'm growing. And at 10 years, I'm like, I think I'm ready for another journey. During the pandemic, I launched my company, started doing free webinars to teach people how to take care of their aligner patients while their practices were closed, and ended up getting the attention of Align Technology and some other kind of like influential people because I was really good at social media. So I was doing a ton of social media stuff with it. And that's really how my company was birthed, like building a really robust aligner system in my practice, recognizing that I could teach this to other people. And then recognizing also there's no training for the specific team on clear aligner therapy. when the role is for the team. Like the team can
Right.
run the whole thing. And so I'm like, let me build what I didn't have. And I started my Clear Aligner Leadership Academy. And yeah, the rest is history.
Wow. Wow, that's such a journey, such a journey. So tell me a little bit about this clear aligner systemization. How did you told me how it came about, and then what kind of methodology did you put in, and how was it adapted? What did you get in terms of adaptation and also in terms of usage once you had this put out? Because it's easy to put out systems, but very hard to get people to use them.
Yes, 100%. And that's where my coaching background, like understanding human psychology, understanding like the neuroscience of behavior change, like when I deeply studied that for years, that's where I would say working with teams, I have that like sweet spot because one, I was that team member. I know what it's like to have somebody come in and tell you what to do. And I know what works and I know what doesn't. And then I also know and understand the difficulty of change. Like change is not easy. Biologically, we're not hardwired to change. We're hardwired to stay the same. So it's not easy. But when people can understand the why and create a true buy-in personally, so when a hygienist can truly create a buy-in around patient care that is based around a foundation of the teeth being in the right position in order to have long-term health and really understand that, that's when they're going to start talking about it every single time. And so when I work with practices, a lot of times they're like, we can't see things the same way again. Like we can't look at our patients the same way after this conversation, because when we look through a lens of comprehensive care means we don't leave our patients in malocclusion, period. Like we just don't do that anymore. That's when we have to start having these conversations. That's when all of your patients in the practice, let's say you have 3,000 active patients or 1,000 active patients, 75% of them have some form of malocclusion. So we just start talking to the patients about what we're seeing and what the consequences of that are over time and let them know we can help them stop it and prevent it and keep their teeth healthy for life. And so the key to all of this is really building out a philosophy that like really understands preventative and proactive care for patients, and it has to include the conversation of orthodontics. And so when I teach that to teams and help them really understand, we're essentially supervising neglect when we're not talking about this, when we're not advising our patients on what we're seeing. There's this like light bulb moment that goes off in their heads, and the hygienist finds the way to scan, finds the way to talk about it. They start to see things like, I can't not see wear patterns now. And those conversations, they automatically result in doing more aligner cases because we're highlighting a problem and the patient wants the solution.
Awesome. So the way you do it is really by educating the team members, and the team members need to understand that it is a patient-centric approach and not a dollar-centric approach, which is true. And then in the end, it's a win-win for both the patient as well as the practice. So that's pretty awesome. That is pretty awesome.
And
So what's that?
I would say the other thing that like teams desperately need is time to be trained as well. Like we can give our team like a task or a duty, but one of the reasons why team members don't do it is there's a lack of confidence. You know, when we're starting anything new, there is a lack of confidence. Doing something new is challenging. It definitely challenges like the ego, even if we have patients and we're scanning for the very first time or we're talking about something new for the first time, the more confident your team is, the more they're going to do it. And we just don't take the time sometimes to like slow down, to train them, to make sure that they're confident, that they have the buy-in, that there's a process in place so that it starts to happen. And that's what I see when we can implement that. That's when like the magic happens.
That is so true. Most offices, and I would say, including mine, you go like me as a dentist would go to a clear aligner coaching program and come back all gung ho, and I'll be like, "We're doing clear aligners," and my team would be like, "Okay, what the hell is it she's saying now? What does this entail? What does it mean? What do we have to do? What does involvement from the team look like?" So definitely, it is really when I think for any CE courses that we go and attend and do, and we want to implement into our practice, it's really, really important to maybe you just take a lunch hour or two to sit down with the team and say, give them a vision, right?
Mhm.
And make them part of that vision. Because other if there is no buy-in from them, it literally fizzles out. It dies before it even began.
A
So,
100%. 100%. Like we need something that we need in today's world is intrinsically motivated team members. And I know when I say that, they're like, oh, that sounds nice. Like that's not possible. You build them. Like you create an environment that fosters team members that like care and they want to care and they feel supported in caring. And it's exciting to me because I think this is a new phase of leadership when it comes to dentistry.
mm, yeah, no, I agree 100%. So, your coaching approach is all about the humans first philosophy. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in all of my studies and in my own high performance, strategies and practices, I realized I remember really dialing into this when I became an office manager, and I recognized that my energy really mattered in the practice. Like if I showed up grumpy, the whole day was not great for my team. If I showed up really energized and focused, it was a totally different day. And I'm like, okay, Allison, you're a high performance athlete. What are the ways and things that you can do as a human that help you consistently feel better and consistently have a better cognitive bandwidth that help you feel better, feel more energized, feel more excited so that you can achieve the things that you want in your life as a person. And I think sometimes we in dentistry, it's a very physical and cognitive workload. Like we're moving, we're thinking, we're dealing with upset patients, we're dealing with a lot of empathy. And if we're not addressing the human being behind all of that work, we're not going to do the best work that we can. And so, a lot of things that we learn in dentistry from a practice management approach, from a systems approach, are just very tactical. It's the systems, it's the scripting, it's the language. But what about the human beings behind the systems, behind the empathy, behind the phone scripts? That's what really matters. How do we build a team of high performers who are well rested, hydrated, well fed, well slept, and that they know how to be a high performer? So when they come into the practice, they have a better shot of doing the things that they need to do to be successful and have a successful practice. Because we know how stressful dentistry can be, and we have to allow our brain to be in the best condition possible. And that comes by honoring us as human beings within that performative workload. So the humans first method really takes the human beings in the practice, helps optimize them so that when we go to do the work, they're better humans doing the work.
That's awesome. And that is hard. That's hard work. How do you I'm so intrigued by that. How is that even possible? How do you do that? How can you put mindfulness in front of mindset?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the practices that work with me, the result is obviously one of financial gain for the practice. That's what happens when you put all
Right.
of this stuff into play. But the other benefits of this are team members saying, "Wow, that's changed my life. Wow, I feel better. Wow, I have less anxiety. Wow, I'm achieving my goals as a person. Wow, I love my job. Wow, I feel valued here." And so when we can, again, it's like slowing down to speed up, really care for the people that are taking care of our practices and teach them. Sometimes they just don't know that these are the ways that we can feel better in the day: meditation, sleep, exercise, hydration, and then create a practice that really honors those human aspects. Like we have goals together of working out, we have goals together of drinking water every day, we have goals together of meditating. It creates this culture of health and a culture of well-being and a culture where we've got each other's back, and team members want to work in a place like that. They want to feel cared for. And so when I've worked with practices like over the years, they've all transformed not just as a practice but as all individuals inside of it, and that's sustainable. That's sustainable growth, and that's really transformative growth. And so it's not easy to talk about these things, but when we can focus on it in a really fun, empowering, meaningful, care-centered way, it brings a really big result to the energy of the practice.
Wow. So you were working, you're basically doing energy work then,
Mm.
because you're shifting the energy of the people within the practice, which then itself shifts the energy of the practice.
Mhm.
And people feel energy, they imbibe energy, and then every patient that comes in will feel that sense of calm, that sense of responsibility, and the sense of actually love that the staff members and the doctor have for everybody in the practice and everybody walking in through the doors. And
Yeah.
that is very, very powerful. Wow. I did not know that could be taught. So I'm learning something too.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I feel it's building success on a really strong foundation because it's on a foundation of absolute care and well-being for the human beings in the organization. And again, like some of the things that I hear on a daily basis are, wow, I'm so grateful that my opinion matters. Wow, it feels so good to know that like somebody cares. And so working with team members and with doctors, like that is one of the best parts of my job is that like somebody is there to say like I care about you as a human and you're going to be incredible. Have you been sleeping enough? Have you been thinking positively? Are you practicing gratitude? Are you meditating? All of the things that from, a neuroscience perspective are ways that we optimize high performance. Like we have professional athletes that are doing this. Why aren't businesses doing it?
Fair question, fair question. And thank you for raising the question because you've raised the question, you've raised the bar. And now we're not looking at just dental practice, it's a holistic dental practice, a wholesome dental practice is more like it, right? And that's pretty amazing. And so are there any practical steps that you have found that work, to build these happy, motivated team members?
100%. I would say one of the things that I've implemented that it's so fun to see all the pictures from all the practices all over the world that I've been able to influence in this way is using a gratitude board. And we look at gratitude like, oh, it's like a nice thing to do. No, from a neuroscience perspective, it is a very powerful way to train your brain to be more positive and optimistic. And we have to do that because the world can feel heavy sometimes, and especially a dental practice can feel heavy. And so when we wake up in the morning and we look to the things that are going well, when we consciously decide, I feel grateful for this, I feel grateful for that. I always say, get grateful for everything that you want to wake up with tomorrow. There's a lot of things that you'll be grateful for. What we do is we activate a part of our brain called the reticular activation system, which is essentially the part of your brain that tells you what's important and what's not. And so if I said, Aditi, I just got a new red Porsche, you would probably notice more red Porsches or more red cars than normal because I put it in your brain as something important. So our brain selectively tags things that we declare are important. So if you wake up in the morning and you say, I feel grateful for all of these things, your brain will selectively tag more of the things that you're grateful for. So automatically you're more positive. Automatically you're more optimistic. Automatically you're looking at the glass half full rather than half empty. And so I create and cultivate this as a practice in my offices where every day we write something on the board that you're grateful for. That could be a team member, that could be the doctor, that could be your patients. And then that board is hung somewhere that they see it often so that it's constantly reminded like these are the things that are going well. Yes, things are going to go badly. People are going to make mistakes. We're going to have unhappy patients, but here are all the things that are going well. Let's remember this. Let's cultivate this. And what it does is it shifts the energy in a practice, especially when we focus on it.
Something as simple as a gratitude board.
Mhm.
Wow, that's really fantastic. That's something I think I need to do too in my practice. Because yes, I do tell my patients or my staff or my patients that I'm thankful and grateful, but I never really ever put it down in writing. So that is something I will definitely, note to self will do. Let's talk about women in digital dentistry. This is your new project. It started, I think, as a passion project, but now it's a real thing. So tell me about it and what led you to start it and where you are now and what is your vision going forward with it?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you asked me about this. So, as a coach, I just automatically got a lot of female dentists as clients. And similar, like simultaneously, I'm a female entrepreneur growing my company and growing myself at the same time. And I just experienced different things in business that were challenges that myself as a female professional was facing that I really didn't think the male professional was facing. I think it's just different. And when I was talking and coaching these clients, I could see in their isolated practices on their own, they were all sharing very similar things that they were struggling with, or like experiences that they were struggling with. And in their minds, they were all alone. And they also felt like they must be the only ones facing this, fear of failure, imposter syndrome, self-doubt, lack of confidence, or this inability to not lead their team too aggressively to be seen a certain way, but also need to hold them accountable. There's all these like dynamics that they were struggling with, but I saw them being struggled with by all of my female clients and myself as a business owner. And so with any problem, I go dive deep into figuring out the solution. And I went back to University of Toronto and I took a Women in Business and Leadership certification to really understand like the history of women in business, to understand why do women specifically struggle with these certain aspects that men tend to not.
Right.
And the business world was built for men by men. And now we are women living in the business world, trying to operate, but not in a system that was built for us. And so my goal was to figure out a way to bring these women together, to start having open conversation about what they were struggling with, dealing with in a way that they could build it together as business owners, as moms, as, women in business. It's just different. It's not better or worse. It's just different. And we come from a history of not working as long as men have, not being able to be the financial breadwinner, not being able to even own a home or have a credit card not that long ago. And so it makes sense that there is some education that needs to happen. It makes sense that there's different skills that we need to hone in and foster. And so with Women in Digital Dentistry, I built a program that brings these women together to help them elevate each other, to be able to celebrate their successes, to be able to unapologetically ask for the things that they want and have other high performing women high-fiving them and celebrating them as well. And then be able to talk about the real issues that they're facing in a very authentic way. And this year was the pilot of it. And we piloted it through Canada. Align Technology came on and was a sponsor for me. And I'm so grateful for their belief in this program and the support of women. And it was life-changing at ET. Like the women in the program had life-changing results. They came together in such impactful and meaningful ways. Like it is a movement. It's not even a program, it's a movement. And I'm just so excited for it. So in 2025, we're moving to the US. So we'll have a Canada arm, we'll have a US arm. And our goal is just to touch as many women as we can, to support them in one, knowing that they're not alone in any of the specific struggles they're having in their practice, to know that there's resources and tools, and that they have a collective of other women supporting them and cheering for them along their journey. And I can't even imagine what it's going to be in 5 years. I can't even imagine what's going to happen here, but I have such big dreams for it. And really, it's just supporting women to have what they want in their life and do it unapologetically and have fun with it and know that there is a way that they can operate as a businesswoman that is, it's just different, and they get to take up that space and be who they want to be in this world.
That's so awesome. I'll tell you something. As a woman in dentistry, and I've been in this role for going on 30 years now. I would say, there's definitely a huge shift in the dynamic from what it used to be to where it is now, where I had from zero say to maybe 2% say to 20% say to now maybe, we're still at about 30-40% say. It has been slowly changing. And like you, my dream is to have women, give them the ability to be able to make their own decisions, to give them their village, because women need a village.
Yeah.
And that is their strength. I was reading a book somewhere where they were talking about these trees that grow really, really tall, but have shallow roots. It's the redwoods. And it was asking about, how do these trees that grow so tall, the redwood trees, have such shallow roots? How do they do it? And they stay for centuries, for a very long time. It's because their branches intertwine. And women are like that. They support each other. Their branches intertwine. That's where the sisterhood comes from. That's where the womanhood comes from. And I think, and this is true in history, right? That women have always had a village. They've always needed a village. And now that we are in this new role of running businesses, and again, like you said, businesses that were not meant to be run by us, right? Because they were not designed by a woman. And you're taking away, and a lot of conversations that I've had with other business owners is that, we embody the masculine to be able to run our businesses. And how does a woman switch from a masculine energy to a feminine energy when she comes home to take care of her kids, where she needs to be in her feminine? It is one of the hardest shifts. I know, I've done it myself. And sometimes you don't shift. And sometimes you're stuck. And so all these roles, it's so different and deep and meaningful that it's really great that you are bringing a collective together of women business owners like this, because it's so needed, because we have so many issues that are similar but not. And then a lot of us are sitting in this energy, which is so masculine, and we are not able to shed it when we need to be that nurturing mom. That's where we are losing out.
100%.
We are losing out as mothers.
So true. And I can't tell you the amount of women that I coach who are just chronically stressed and fatigued and highly in their masculine and burning out and feeling guilty all the time and feeling never good enough and not perfect enough. And, there's just this weight that when we don't talk about this, when we don't say, hey, it's normal, it's okay, but here's the way we can shift out of that. Here's the way we can find a solution. If we just sit in that, we just feel isolated and alone, and it must only be me that's thinking this way, and it's not. And there's a solution to this, and you're not alone, and you don't have to feel that way, and you can be beautifully feminine and masculine at the same time, and you can operate in a way that works for you as a business owner. And I think that there's just been so many guardrails put up in what it means to be a woman in business that we have to tear down and reestablish. And I think now in history is the perfect time to do it. And I think we're supported and, we're loved on. We need our men. We love our men.
Absolutely.
We get to really kind of redefine what it means to be a woman in business.
Yeah, it's just a different time, that's the trailblazing time that we're in. Every era women have brought about some change in that time period. And our time period is to work on women in business and bring that kind of change, So Absolutely. How fantastic is that, honestly, we are both blessed that we have this opportunity to be change makers. And that is, to me, I am in internal gratitude that we are in this time where we can be change makers, that we have something to change, to work on, to work with, and to empower. And in that journey, we learn ourselves, we empower ourselves, we find ourselves.
It's so true. It is so true.
Just truly amazing.
There's so much love between women. Like I've heard, especially just from men sometimes saying like, oh, women are always at each other, like backstabbing and things like that. I'm like, for sure, like that's not it, like we're not immune to that. However, women are so loving of each other. And the amount of women who, when I first decided to start my company, the amount of women who just reached out, put a hand down and pulled me up, or pushed me up or spoke my name in rooms I wasn't in or celebrated me even if I wasn't there. Like the amount of women that did that is just incredible. And now I see myself as a little bit more experienced entrepreneur doing that for younger women. And they're like, why? Like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, it's because I see something in you that is super special and we want to elevate it. And I see that with women all the time. Like we do this for each other all of the time and it's incredible. And when we can do that more often and intentionally, I think we're unstoppable together.
Agreed. We are unstoppable together. That is so well put. Before we sign off, I do want to talk about your clear aligner boot camp because I have, that is, I mean, I've heard from so many other women who have done the boot camp that that is just a phenomenal thing. So tell us a little bit about it so that the listeners know.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. The boot camp is what I needed and would have loved and wanted as a dental assistant, a treatment coordinator, an office manager to train the entire team on the systems that start more Invisalign cases. So I teach the practice philosophy of comprehensive care. I teach all of the systems. I teach the confidence in having those conversations with patients to lean into the objections when they say they need to go ask their husband or wife if they can get started, like all of these things that are struggles when we're trying to implement clear aligner cases. This 6-month program walks the whole team through how to solve those problems and then how each individual team member can be an empowered member of this process. So it's really, really fun. We have weekly challenges. We track the case starts. We celebrate the team members. And it really is about empowering the team to take the lead in this process by giving them the mindset skills and the clinical skills and the actual systems for success. And so most of the practices that go through, every single one of them has like jumped a tier or doubled the amount of cases that they're doing. And it just continues to grow from there. And we've just seen some incredible leaders come out of this program who now are just like leading their team and doing incredible things. And so my goal is really to make it easy to empower your team. Like it's time. It takes time to do it. My goal is to make it easy for you to train and empower your team.
Yeah, no, it's very important because if your team is very motivated themselves, I
Mhm.
mean, they can do wonders for you and for the practice.
Yeah.
But so don't be afraid to lean into your team because I was that dentist who was afraid to lean into my team, and it held me back. It was only when I let go, really, you know, and there will be when you let go, it's not like it's a right away, a big takeoff. You don't. There is a setback, but the setback is so minor. And then you suddenly let them pick up the pieces,
Mhm.
let them lead the way. And it works like magic. I mean, I have done it in my own practice after 18, close to 19 years of doing it, you know, my way and just struggling through every day. I one day decided, well, that's it. let's let's see what happens if I empower the team.
Yeah.
And I have been riding that high for 5 years now, and I've loved every minute of it. And my staff loves it. And you know, the practice grows.
Mhm.
It just does on its own because there is so much love and motivation put in when you feel empowered.
100%, 100%. And it, like exactly what you said, there's that problem where doctors go to conferences and they come back and they say, let's do more clear aligner cases. And the team's like, okay, we're gonna
Right.
maybe we'll have a couple conversations, but this program is meant to have the accountability, the excitement, and the motivation, and then the know-how to do it. So, like, how do we do the consults? How do we have those persuasive conversations? How do we do this every single time? What are the systems to get the patients to say yes? Like, it's all built into it, and it's been over a decade and a half of work, and I'm constantly bringing new and exciting trainings to it. And thankfully, we have you guys as a incredible sponsor for the program to help us track the data and track the success. And so we just love seeing the results of it.
Thank you. Well, if our audiences want to reach out to you, how do they reach you in all the different things that you do?
Oh my gosh, the best way would be to go to Your Clear Aligner Coach on Instagram. Your Clear Aligner Coach is a website as well, so yourclearalinercoach.com. And then if you want more information around the boot camp, it's domoreclearalinercases.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Allison. This was, as always, it was wonderful talking to you. Not only was it educational, informational, but it was very inspirational. And for that, I'm really thankful because you have a lot going on for you. And I am proud to be your cheerleader and your friend. So thank you.
Thank you, Aditi. And I just want to say, like, it's so fun to work with other women in business like you to continue to just empower our industry. So thank you for everything that you've done to support us and all the women in our program. You're just incredible and definitely a leader and somebody that's inspiring so many people.
Oh, thank you, Allison. You are too kind.